It's time for a new movie review. And I'm reviewing a film that came out in 2002. It was called Far From Heaven, directed by Todd Haynes, who was also responsible for the screenplay. The cast in the lead role is Julianne Moore, who plays Cathy Whitaker. Her husband, Dennis Quaid, is Frank. Dennis Naismith is a gardener, Raymond Deakin, who works for the Whitakers. Patricia Clarkson plays Eleanor Fine, and Viola Davis plays Sybil, and she's the housekeeper for the Whitakers. And there will be a slide, of course. So, a brief summarization of the plot. The movie's set in Connecticut in the USA in the 50s. And if you can imagine a housing estate with picket fences in middle class areas, relatively affluent, that's where we are. It's a 50s domestic melodrama, but there's more to it than that. As I will continue. Some of the material is probably more appropriate for the turn of the millennium. You certainly wouldn't have seen this movie back in the 50s. So Cathy Whitaker seemingly has a perfect life. Her husband Frank's a recognised TV salesman, and she has two children, a comfortable house, and there's a contentment in her life until she inadvertently goes to her husband's office. He's working late, allegedly, and she wants to hand deliver them the dinner that she promised to him and has cooked for him. Unfortunately, she finds him in an embrace with another man. Now, in the mid 50s, homosexuality was very much an illegal act in the United States, also in the UK. And this issue is then thrust forward onto the screen, a very much a taboo subject. Her husband confesses that these are real feelings. He gets to see a doctor, and immediately we see the marriage becoming a stressful relationship. And that's predictable, to be honest. Cathy then starts to develop a platonic relationship with the gardener, Raymond, played by Haysmith, sorry. He's a widower, but he has a young daughter who's at primary school. And of course, he's black. And this again raises another firestorm within the community. A lot of Cathy's friends and associates look down on this because multiracial relationships in the mid 50s was very much a taboo. So there we have it, a movie that's really focusing on these two issues: sexuality, sexual orientation, and racism. Yeah, I just want to focus on a few succinct scenes in this movie. The first one has to be when Cathy goes to the office and catches her husband with this man. The second, Frank goes to a gay bar and he has to show ID for age clarification. So it gives you some idea of the situation in America in the mid 50s with regard to the freedom for gay men and lesbian women. Three, the third scene, the women get together with Cathy and there's a jocular sharing of how often they have had sex with their partners. Four, Eleanor Clarkson's character indulges in small talk about gay men, and it's particularly homophobic. Next scene, Frank tries to become passionate with his wife, and it all turns rather fractious and frustrating. And he ends up by slapping Cathy, and she receives a slight bruise to her face. Next scene, Raymond notices the mark on Cathy's face and becomes genuinely concerned for her safety. And the last one, Raymond and Cathy go out for lunch to a restaurant, which is mainly occupied by African Americans. Very interesting to observe what happens there. Further plot developments. After the restaurant incident, rumours set off in the community, And of course, the issue of a black man with a white woman in public is just a no-no in this very, very, very conservative community. And Cathy eventually is forced to stop the friendship. Her husband, however, gets wind of this and puts two together and gets five and completely goes off the rails. It appears that hypocrisy is very much in evidence here with regard to Frank, and the bigotry is also very, very evident, of course. And we also see how this affects the children. Raymond's daughter gets subjected to bullying in the school. Anyway, Cathy and Frank decide to go on a holiday to Miami, a luxurious resort. It sure is. There's a lovely swimming pool. And then the next scenes that I felt were very, very poignant. We witness two incidents here. Firstly, a young man who shows a passing interest to Frank while sitting at the pool. And then Cathy picks up on these vibes, and a young black boy tries to use the swimming pool and is reprimanded as it's just for whites only. Anyway, with regard to the first interest in Frank, he decides to excuse himself to his room, and the young man follows him. And there's an assumption that they possibly get involved in some hanky panky. Moving on from this, inevitably the relationship completely crashes and a divorce follows. Now Cathy is on her own and is feeling rather sort of lonely. So she decides to check out on Raymond. But unfortunately, he's already, because of the bullying, moved out of the area and gone to Baltimore. And we then witness the final scene of the movie when Cathy, desperate to make contact with him, ends up on the train station, and there's this final goodbye. This is a really good movie, I think. It really deserves your viewing. If I've overdone the plot spoilers, nevertheless, it will still be quite good for you to see this movie and see the emotions within the people and the impact of these scenes. So there's my review anyway from Far From Heaven. Please get to watch it. You will not be disappointed.